Good evening, guys, and welcome to the Eagle Career Guidance and Career Pathing channel again. Today, I have a special guest for you, and he's going to tell us what he does. But first, let me let him introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Mthembu.
All right, Skumbuzo, thank you for being here today and giving us a few moments of your time. May I please ask, what does Skumbuzo do?
I'm an architect.
All right, and what does an architect do?
An architect is the designer of buildings and infrastructure. So he works within a team of engineers, quantity surveyors to put together a design of, let's say, a building or other infrastructure projects.
Sounds like a very interesting profession, but I want to know what kind of interests and skills and talents and strengths and values does a person need to have, or what that pulled you towards architecture?
I was always interested in construction, and I did not know exactly which vehicle I would use to be involved in the construction space. And then I discovered architecture, which means that I could then design buildings, conceptualize, imagine spaces, and influence how people interact with space. And that's why I became an architect.
The reason that we're doing these kind of videos and engagements with already existing professionals is so that our viewers can get a more in-depth perception of how important career planning is. So I want to know, how important was career planning to you? And during your time when you were about to study to be an architect, were you prepared?
Not really. I knew I loved building. I knew I could draw. But when I got to varsity, I realized that I could have chosen subjects like arts back then, subject like technical drawing back then. It's called EGD, I think, today. But because I've got a passion for it, because it's a lot to do with thinking, it's a lot to do with conceptualizing, it's a lot to do with science. I was able to be able to deal with it. Yeah.
Maybe to take us back a bit, because another reason is we're doing this is for our viewers to actually be able to associate with the person we're interviewing. Where is Kura from? Where did it all begin?
Yeah, so I'm from a rural town called Flagstaff in the Eastern Cape. I was born there, studied there, my primary, and then I went to a boarding school in Matatiele called Maria Zell for my high school. I must say they did their best, for career guidance. And at grade 11, I discovered there's something called architecture. I always knew that there were plan drawers, I always knew that there were engineers, but I did not know the actual profession of architecture. I discovered it only at grade 11, and I did apply for it, and I was rejected, so I chose surveying. That was UKZN. I was rejected for architecture, so I chose surveying at DUT. When I got to DUT, I realized that DUT does architecture as well. So I went to the HOD. I said DUT at the time, and I said, look, this is actually what I'm most interested in. I'm in the same faculty as surveying, but I really don't think surveying will benefit me. I want to do architecture. So I kind of stumbled on it in a way, but it's a career that I feel that I'm made for. Yeah.
Some of the gaps we're trying to bridge are those lucky positions where some people don't understand their passions. So if you could advise people who want to study architecture on what kind of subjects they should focus on in high school, which one would you say?
Firstly, I would say pure maths. You can't do math lit and do architecture. You have to calculate. You have to calculate levels. You have to calculate angles. You must have geometry and all of that. So you have to have pure maths. It can be standard grade. You have to have science because it's a science. Architecture, in a very unique way, lies in between engineering and arts. So there must be an element of mathematics and science, and then arts, which is poetry. There must be an element of poetry. Poetry meaning how things are put together. So you design a building, but how you arrange a window towards a door, that's poetry. And so it's between arts and engineering in that manner. So somebody must have a passion for working out things mathematically. They must also have a feel for the arts. Yeah.
Now, you get to varsity. There has to be a study regime. How intense is the study regime to be an architect, and what kind of modules do you exactly learn about?
So at varsity, you get to learn about law, regulations, what you can do, what you can't do in what sites. But the study regime for an architect is rigorous. I feel it's actually one of the most time challenging courses you can ever get. Imagine a painting. You don't actually finish doing a painting. You stop doing a painting because you can always add red or yellow and orange to make it warmer. You can always add blue to make it cooler. So it actually does not end. And because of that, as an architecture student, you always try to impress your lecturers by demonstrating your understanding of problem solving. You do that, and most of the time you do that during the day, throughout the night, to try and demonstrate that this is what I can do. And at some point you stop. You never finish architecture. You can always make this door bigger. You can always make this door here. There's so many options. So you find out what is most optimal and what best serves the space. And then you say, okay, I'm fine, I'm good. And because of that, it's a very time-consuming course. So I didn't really have much social life at university, except for movies every now and then.
Now, the final question, this is what everybody technically wants to know. The daily life of the profession. Where can I work? What do I do every day? How many hours do I work per day? And finally, how much do I get paid?
You will work about 9 hours a day if you're an architect in South Africa. That's excluding your lunch. You will work about 9 hours a day. In terms of the input of what you do and what you get paid, I feel we are underpaid. You could get projects that you feel give you a break and you make it and you are great. But generally, when you start, unless you get a really good break, when you start, you struggle a bit, like most businesses. Architects over 45 will not speak what I'm talking about. They've been around, they've made it, they've made their systems work much more efficiently than people under the age of 40, for example, and so they can make money from it. Overseas, you get celebrity architects, the multi-millionaire people in America and Europe. There are very few in South Africa, less than 10, I can count for you now, who are making really, really big. But the daily life of an architect is somebody commissions you to do a building on a site, on an empty site, generally. You can also alter buildings, of course. And then you have to visit the site. Then you have to observe elements that influence the site. Today we have wind, for example. We have to see how the wind blows, how the sun moves around the site, how you access the site, and analyze all of that, and then go back to the drawing board and design a building that best suits the site. You design the building, gets approved by the client, And then you take it to the municipality to get approved by the municipality for the regulations, because there's health regulations, there's town planning regulations, etc. For example, you can't build your wall right on the boundary next to your neighbor and put a window on it, because when you have fire in your house, fire will go through that window into the neighbor's house, which is why now you have building lines around your site. You own your site, but you can't use 100% of the site to build. You use part of it, let's say in a residential area. And then, but the most fulfilling part about being an architect is when you go to site and somebody is constructing your design. That's probably the most fulfilling site. And of course, the end of the process is when you give the key to the client and say, this is your project, you're done.
Thank you very much, Skhumbuzo.
Yeah.
Very insightful. We could sit with you the whole day, but yeah. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Sure.